What is going on, everybody? It's your favorite Dunk Onward Richardson here to talk about your Texas Longhorns. Look, if you are a Texas fan, right about now, you can't be happier than happy is could be. That didn't even make any sense. But that's how damn happy you are, right? I wanted to try to say something clever. And I think in mid sentence, I just caught myself and I didn't say anything clever at all. But nonetheless, I know how happy you are without me stumbling over words. I know how happy you are because you're sitting here in this month and here in the off season, and you're saying to yourself, "We are the toast of the town. Everybody's talking about us. Everybody loves us, right?" I recently had Andy Staples on my show as a guest. And it was good to talk to Andy. It was good to reconnect with Andy. And Andy had recently come out with his top 25. Let's go ahead and look at this real quick, right? So he gave me his post spring top 25. And lo and behold, your Texas Longhorns were sitting there at the number one spot, followed by the Notre Dame, followed by Clemson, Penn State, and Ohio State. If we went by Andy's ranking, we got 1 versus 5 to open up this season, right? And then you start looking down the rest of this list, and you see Alabama there, Georgia at number 8, right? And you see where everybody else is at. And if you're a Texas fan, you say to yourself, this is absolutely perfect because when you look at it, some of our toughest games, I mean, they're going to be on the road, but we should be better than these teams. Makes all the sense in the world. Better than Ohio State, better than Georgia, right? Better than Florida. Even though it's kind of should be a little nervous that again, this is not an AP or college rankings, but in Andy's top 10, 3 of those teams are in there, right? So nonetheless, you're saying to yourself, feeling good about everything. And then another thing happened. Let me go ahead and find this one for you. Let me find this one for you because this is a good one. Here we go. This is Joel Clatt. He came out with his rankings. Make sure y'all can see that on the screen. Oh, let me enlarge this to get rid of myself. Hold on 1 second. There you go. Hold on. Let me take this off here too. Hey, I'm a self-produced show. Don't judge me. Judgment-free zone. Okay. He came out with this, right? I took this from his from the Twitter. And so you got Penn State at number 1, but you still got you got Texas at number 2, Ohio State at number 3 with Oregon, and then Clemson, right? You go down and there's a common denominator because both of them have Georgia at the 8th spot. And you just kind of go down and see where everybody else is. You can see Florida's a little bit more further down the list as relates to for Clatt than it was with Andy. Trying to see who else is in there. They got A&M in this one as well. I don't think he had that. And then Joel Clatt has Oklahoma in here, which, okay, sure. I mean, I get you got to put somebody at 25. Sure, you can maybe something funny happens, maybe something different happens, right? So, in any case, you see that to yourself and you say, man, we're back. And all jokes aside, Texas has been back, right? Texas has gone to the semifinals for 2 straight years. So you should be very happy and you should be pounding your chest. And you should be going out buying burnt orange, right? And you should be thinking about what road games you want to go to because golly, I know the home slate is not that great. You don't want to spend the money on that. So what road games do you want to go to, right? You have all these thoughts in your head, right? And I only have a little bit of pause because I'm this kind of person that I don't know if you guys, some people say they're superstitious and something like that, right? I'm a little bit. I'm that kind of person who doesn't like to talk about too many things before it happens. It's kind of like when you're watching baseball and the cardinal rule is you're not supposed to mention no hitter, right? Because when you mention a no hitter, it happens. Right? It's the same way about injuries. If you all of a sudden mention like this guy's been injury free, then it happens. You see it all the time on TV. This kicker has made 12 straight field goals. Like, he's been on money. He's on point from this. Then the kicker always goes out and misses it, right? There's just that jinx that happens. And so for me, what I'm about to say is no kinds of negativity at all. It's probably trying to work a little reverse jinx for you Longhorn fans to make sure the season goes well. But I do have to say, though, one of the things that will need to occur, at least will hope for occur, will be that Texas has the breakthrough against Georgia that you want them to have. Now, I know you're looking at Ohio State, right? And I know you're looking at, the big picture. You're thinking playoffs and all these other kind of things, right? But I refuse to sit here in the offseason and then just discount Georgia and discount Kirby Smart as if it's just a foregone conclusion that Texas is going to go on the road to Athens and win that game. It's a kind of hard one for me because, as you know, sports, you watching this chat, and I know you're a knowledgeable person as relates to sports. Some teams kind of have a way of becoming kryptonite for other teams. There's always this team where you're just trying to break through, and it's just not happening. I remember when, I'll give you a personal example. I remember when I covered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And they had a problem getting through the Eagles. And if you remember back then, it's kind of late 90s, early 2000s, right? The Eagles, eliminated the Bucs in the playoffs. I think it was 2 straight years. And you're thinking, so how the hell are you going to actually get through this? And so it finally took. Then, and of course, it took a new coach as well. So that, it's one of the reasons Tony Dungy ended up losing his jobs. One of them, right, is that there's we got to find a way to get through. You get John Gruden in there, and then the following year they finally go to, they actually are. I don't think they went to Philly or not, but I'm pretty sure they went to Philly. Pretty sure they were at the Vet, and they went on to beat Philly that year. And then they go and play the Raiders. They dominate, and then they win the Super Bowl. And you think about these rivalries in sports, you think about the Georgia-Alabama rivalry. Think about that from 2010s to 2021. I mean, it was Alabama's show, right? We know that. Alabama was the team that, for the most part, was always going to have the upper hand against Georgia when they played. They beat them in an SEC championship game, national championship, an SEC championship. They lose. I think it was 2018. They were leading and then lost when it was all said and done. And then it finally happened in 2022, right? Where it was the 2021 season, but the games that played in 2022, where Georgia finally beats Alabama. It's 33-18, and they win their first national title since we started, since Blockbuster was still in existence, right? It's 1980, right? So since Blockbuster was around, and you guys, we were all going out there on a Friday in order to see if we get the new release, right? You gotta get the new release at Blockbuster, right? And maybe Blockbuster came along a little bit after that, but you get what I'm saying. It was a long time, right? It was a long time. Maybe Blockbuster was in the 90s or something like that. Maybe we didn't have VHS or anything like that, but you get what I'm saying. A long time ago. I think about Florida and Florida State, right? Think about all the problems that Florida had against Florida State. Bobby Bowden, right? Bobby Bowden, he had that thing rocking, right? He had that thing going for all those years. He had that program where it needed to be. And you guys remember they called it in 1994. They called it the choke at Doak. where basically Florida led 31-3 at the end of the third quarter and then end up blowing that lead. You remember that? And so that happened, right? And then eventually comes the breakthrough where Florida, they will go ahead and they go to the Sugar Bowl, but they finally get past FSU. They blow them out. This is under Steve Spurrier. They blow them out 52-20, and they get their first national championship under Spurrier, right? So that happened. By the way, I met Steve Spurrier like that off season after winning the national championship. Funny story. He was in Bartow, Florida when I was a high school writer, and he was making an appearance at how they do the off season thing. So he goes and has this appearance where he's talking to the boosters, and so but he agreed to sit down with me. And here I am, high school reporter, 1997. Yeah, I've been around for a while, and so anyway, I'm asking him some questions about normal stuff, and he just interrupts me, and he goes, "You ever see a national championship ring?" I was like, "No." He's like, it just throws it down here you go. I was like, "Okay, that's very nice." It's funny. The year before that, I think it was the year before that. I gotta go back my timeline. But I'm pretty sure he did the same thing for me with an SEC championship ring as well. So, any case, is one of my few Steve Spurrier memories outside of him playing football for Tampa many years ago. So, nonetheless, you had that kind of thing happen. You guys remember? I'll take it back to you one last example, but you guys remember Oklahoma and Nebraska, and it kind of what that thing happened when when Oklahoma was having all that the whole Oklahoma thing, probably 60s and 70s, right? So and then that breakthrough finally occurs, and there's some more others. There are others. Okay, listen, I just told you I'm from Polk County, Florida. Be nice, be gentle on me, right? So I say it all to say, we know that in 2018, Texas beats Georgia in a game that, of course, Georgia didn't want to be there. So, of course, that happened, right? Because that's how it always goes. You just lose games because all of a sudden you just don't want to be there. No one shows up, right? But last year happened. It's kind of hard to ignore. It's hard to ignore 30-15 and the lopsided loss that Texas sustained in that game. And, of course, 22-19. In the SEC championship game. There's two games that you look at and you say to yourself, man, that was frustrating. The first game you didn't have a chance to win. That they came into DKR and opened up a can. Second game, you had a chance to win. So the question becomes, okay, as we go into we're the off season, which is where we're at right now, and we start thinking about the 2025 season, the question kind of begs itself: is Kirby Smart Steve Sarkisian's kryptonite? Much to the way that some of the other things that I've described, that it took a while for the breakthrough to occur. Could it be that Kirby Smart finishes with 9 wins, but one of them is against Texas? Could all the years of expertise as a defensive coordinator under Nick Saban, does that just help Kirby when it comes to game planning, stopping, all those things as relates to Sark? Say defense wins championships. And we know what that defense was able to do. Is he the guy that you say to yourself, he's got the Sark offense figured out, and he knows how to win, knows how to make plays at the big time, all that kind of stuff? Is he the kryptonite? Well, I will say he's pretty damn good. I mean, I think he's a future Hall of Famer. That's how good he is. Is he the kryptonite? Don't want to say that. Because I'm not going to get with a corny cliche. But I think the difference between last year and this year is going to be that Texas has their Superman, for lack of better terms. But you can't ignore the Arch thing. You can't, right? Because at the end of the day, we know that Kirby does a fantastic job of dialing up pressure, right? We know that he can dial up pressure. And one of the things that hurt Quinn last year was that, look, Quinn's not a mobile quarterback. It's not a guy who's going to go and try to get loose. Like that's not Quinn's game. Like that's not who he is. But we do know this. You can F around and find out and bring that pressure against Arch if you want to, because if he just says, oh, snap, let me just go ahead and run this thing, defense is going to be in trouble. Having to account for that dual threat is going to be something that I think helps Sark, especially as a play caller. Because, look, I'm not crazy. We know that Sark isn't going to have Arch running for 1,000 yards. Like, let's get that out of here. Like, I'm not saying all of a sudden Sark is ditching his plans and he's just saying to himself, all right, now, let's just throw caution to the wind. And this is going to be my new offense. No, that's not going to be his new offense. He's not going to do that. But knowing that you got a quarterback who can keep a defense honest, knowing that he can make a defense pay, and sure, they're going to try to throw a bunch of things at Arch in order to try to confuse him. I'm pretty sure that Arch is good at film study. Not going to be too particularly worried about that portion of it right there. But then I think Sark, if he's got an effective passer as well, when he's calling the plays and receivers are open and it's deep balls, that you can feel good that, okay, these things are going to connect. And if you can play a little bit honest, then maybe that also helps the run game. And I know people have questions about, well, what about the offensive line? But at the end of the day, you got to feel confident. And I feel like Steve Sarkisian, Kyle Flood deserve the benefit of the doubt, where if there's a deficiency, they always seem to address it in the transfer portal. And I feel like if there was a huge deficiency at the offensive line position, they would have said, no, we need to get somebody else. Why? Because it's Arch Manning. We're going to make sure that we protect the franchise. And you know how you protect the franchise? You get some badass offensive linemen up there. But what you can't have is offensive linemen that are going to be at a turnstile. You can't have the matador as your offensive line, just letting everybody around say, ole, like, no, that can't happen. That as relates to Arch. So the fact that they didn't attack the transfer portal and bring anybody out of that to bring to Texas shows me that they have a lot of confidence in them. And they've earned my benefit of the doubt that if you tell me you got confidence in a person, I'm absolutely going to believe in you. And I believe that they still have the weapons at receiver, weapons at tight end. And then we know the defense is going to be salty. And in a game, when you look at two games where Texas was not, I'm looking back at the score, they were not able to crack over 20 points against Georgia in two games. Only a 4-point increase from one to another. I think that becomes the thing that you look at and you say to yourself, okay, we've got this thing. We've definitely got a chance to potentially run the table. You know, it's good. That's hard. I know that's hard. But I'm just saying the opportunity with the defense, with talent on the offense, and a quarterback who potentially could be an upgrade over what you've had last year or the last 3 years, if we're just being quite honest with you, right? So if you're a Texas fan, feel good about where you're at, feel good about your team. It's all happy days. Is Kirby smart? Does he kind of have some sort of kryptonite that makes it harder for Sarkisian? Yeah, it's been rough. You can't deny the past 2 years, or at least the past 2 games. Not 2 years, but at least the past 2 games. But I also can't deny that Texas will enter this season with a boatload of talent on both sides of the ball, defensive tackles, offensive linemen, elite receivers. And at the end of the day, that might be the thing where Steve Sarkisian has his breakthrough, and you can put all of this to rest, and that will just be another footnote for Sark, who's been able to accomplish so many things: baseball championship, get to the SEC championship, and then go ahead and say, you know what, we're just going to go ahead and knock off our nemesis, which is Georgia, and finally have that breakthrough. Let's see what happens this season, y'all. Take care. Have a fantastic day. Remember, I always say, live each day like it's your last. One day it will be. I don't care when you're watching this video. Go out and do something special for yourself today. You absolutely deserve it. Celebrate yourself. Y'all take care. Talk to you soon. Peace.